Hello and welcome back to the MMA Split podcast. Back in the studio, back in your life, to quote a not so popular Ariel Helwani in these parts, but I did it anyway. I'm your host Matt, host and producer Josh. You guys already know the drill. Plenty of talked about on this week's show. Last week's actions in the books. We're going to be discussing everything that happened during Almeida versus Derek Lewis, as well as the whole card. Some big surprises, some good fights, some not so good fights. We're going to be discussing it all. Major fight announcements. UFC 297, 298 and 299 all have main events booked. 3 title fights. We're going to be discussing all of that. And of course this weekend is UFC 295 in Madison Square Gardens, headlined by Yuri Prochazka taking on Alex Pereira. We lost the heavyweight fight. We lost the Legends fight.
Yeah.
But instead of that, we now have a co-main event heavyweight interim title fight.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Between the surging
It's not the same.
Sergey Pavlovich and England's very own Tom Aspinall, stepping in on short notice and hopefully making it 2 champs.
Hopefully.
2 lions.
Assuredly.
2 lions roaring. We're going to be hoping for that.
I like that.
Great fights on the main card. Great fights on the prelims. Mackenzie Dern versus Jessica Andrade is one I'm especially looking forward to. You got a nice little grappler's delight with Diego Lopez taking on Pat Sabatini. And some other fights we're going to be getting into. You know the drill before we
Mark
kick
Madsen.
on. Like, subscribe, comment, feedback, positive or negative. We don't mind. It's all appreciated.
Just fucking write something.
With all of that said, let's get into the show as I grab my Brewdog beer to discuss.
And I grab a nondescript beer. I'm not trying to push anything on the kids.
Good man. I respect that. Let's talk about last week's card. Derek Lewis steps in on short notice. We got one thing wrong on this fight. I felt like this fight would be over about a minute after Derek Lewis's back hit the ground.
I said it wasn't getting out of the first round.
I'm not saying it's a win, because it's not. Derek Lewis got dominated. But he definitely deserves, he didn't quit. That must have been the most miserable experience for him. I mean, that might have been one of the worst losses to have to suffer.
Was it the first or the second round where he gets up and then just immediately gets bucked and flipped on a single leg? And as soon as he goes back down, it's just frustration in his face,
And the problem is Gelton Almeida was just a little too quick. And unfortunately, just a little too small. He obviously caught Curtis Blades with that uppercut when Curtis Blades was going in. Curtis Blades, that's a big man that has to travel a lot of distance down to get to where you are. And without that sprightliness of Almeida, it just felt like he was down at Derek Lewis's knees, wrapping him up before you could even think about launching the counter shot. And really, he never had a hope in this fight.
Well, I mean, the size, the kind of flip side of the coin for it was that he had to constantly be cautious of Derek Lewis being able to do something.
This is true.
There were rounds where even though he had the dominant position for, maybe 4 minutes of the round, it's still just a 10-9 because he has to go slow and be cautious. Derek Lewis, had moments where he was able to get him to rush, make mistakes. He could get up again. 3rd round, he starts to get up. Almeida jumps too high on the back, slips straight off, and then Lewis lands some good ground and pound and gets busy. From that point on, Lewis realised that standing on the feet, he was getting taken down at will. His best option was maybe to try and once he had him up against the fence, I think in the 4th round, he starts trying to trip him, thinking that ground and pound is my road to victory here. So every time they were on the ground, Almeida was wary, I think.
Right, well, we had a loss of power. We're back.
Wait. Sorry, I just want to check we were recording. Yeah, we're back.
We're back.
We're back.
We were somewhere in the middle of talking about the 4th or 5th time that Almeida took Derek Lewis down.
Yeah, well, having to be wary of what what Lewis could potentially do in terms of like reversing him or just kind of getting back to the feet. So it was very much position over submission the whole time. I did threaten some things, threatened plenty of things to be honest. Lewis defended well. It was a fun fight.
I wouldn't say a fun fight.
Well, I enjoyed it.
It was an impressive amount of control time.
I didn't enjoy because I ran out of time this weekend and I had to watch the fights like immediately before we started recording. You rang my doorbell. I was still like watching the 5th round. So an early finish would have been beneficial for me in terms of having time to like digest and break down the fights. But I still kind of enjoyed how tense it was, thinking that, you know, maybe Lewis could get up, maybe Lewis could pull this off. And watching Almeida grapple that well with a guy that strong makes me think, before we started recording, we talked about like how we already talked about how we wanted to see blades because we wanted to see grappler versus grappler. How could he deal with a big, strong wrestler? You don't get that with Lewis. It is what it is. We assumed he was going to win. We didn't think it was going to be a decision, but we knew it would be dominant.
21 minutes of control time.
Insane. And fucking, you know, how is he going to match up against guys that are like not as strong, but are better grapplers, or the guys who are almost as strong and are much better grapplers? You know, Aspinall, great jiu-jitsu game, not as big or strong as Lewis, but kind of like a longer frame, a bit more, kind of a bit lighter in his movement as well, kind of beneficial. So I think that kind of like strength to technique ratio, well, I think Almeida, to me, looks like a better grappler than Aspinall from what I've seen. I think Aspinall is going to have a lot more, he's going to have advantages on the ground because that sort of like that size to technique ratio stops swinging in Almeida's favour. And then, you know, you were kind of saying, you know, Spivak, obviously, love to see the fucking Blades fight. Would love to see Moss
into. I'd like to see him fight Moss into Tabura. Like, let's be honest. We've said this before. The disparity of skill in heavyweight is at times quite shocking.
Yeah.
Apart from like 4 people, and Almeida is technical enough that when he fights Derek Lewis, who literally has no technique when it comes to wrestling, it is literally pure survival instinct and explosiveness that gets him out of a lot of his bad positions. He's the only guy that's more effective at getting up from side control than he is from fucking full guard. And that makes 0 sense. This is not a test. Like, he didn't get hit with the big shot. He was too fast. That's impressive. There's a lot of impressive stuff. 1 minutes of control time is very impressive. What it is also, it's a little boring. I thought this was boring. And I'll admit that I was watching this fight a little drunk, and it was late at night, and I had my girlfriend next to me. So that's not the easiest. Like, you know, sometimes you feel someone else's boredom, and she's just watching 2 grown men effectively rolling around with each other on the ground. You know, without like a lot of submission attempts or punches or damage
some things, and it was that tenseness of like, you know, if it does go back to the feet, he can get caught. On a scale of 1 to Miocic Ngannou 1, you know, I'd say it's like about a 3. But like there was some of that fucking tenseness there. Like, you know, I felt it. It was palpable. I enjoyed it. I think it was a fun fight.
I was impressed. Like, there's loads to be impressed about.
How the fuck did Lewis go 5 rounds like that?
How did he do it? He came in like...
He defended well in a lot of those positions. It was impressive.
That's the thing, like, he had a lot of opportunities to give up, and he didn't. He wasn't being asked to defend a lot on the ground, but he defended what he had to. He didn't do a great job at staying on his feet, but he wasn't good at that even on a full training camp. He's not going to be good at that 2 weeks off the sofa, let's be honest.
No, and he had a good 3rd round.
And like, here's the thing, I'm not saying this is entertaining, but what do we talk about quite often on the show? Like, yes, you want to be well-rounded, but a fighter should also know what got them to the dance. And I like the fact that, unlike a Curtis Blades, who can be dominating that same Derek Lewis fight but just makes an obvious mistake or forces one thing and then the other, or stays on his feet too long. Like, Almeida knows what he is.
Yeah.
And he's technical enough to keep going to it. And there are a few times where Derek Lewis would get up. What does he do? He doesn't give up on it and say, okay, we're going to strike now. No, just straight back down on a double leg. Because that's his game plan. That's where he's going to win the fight. And to do that for 25 minutes, not have a lapse, not let your ego get the better of you, I think that's something to be commended.
He was also good enough and quick enough to chain those takedown attempts together, and every time he got up, he had at least one more way to try and return him to the mat before anything really got away from him, which is very much what happened in the co-main, which would be a good segue. But is there anything else you want to say about the main event?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't
in terms
matter.
of Almeida moving forward, it's I just want to see the Blades fight rebooked. So it's kind of really
do anything for him. It's just a good win, and it's a good name on the record. I'd say it legitimizes him as a heavyweight rather than just a light heavyweight running up the easy part of the table.
This was theoretically a step up, although matchups being matchups, we didn't really see it that way.
Nah. Doesn't matter if Derek Lewis wins or loses. That guy's just fucking awesome.
Yep.
He got arrested for speeding his car.
Oh yeah.
Beforehand, and during the press media scrum, I should say, not the press conference, the media scrum on the Wednesday, he was asked about it, and he just said, "Oh, that wasn't me." He said, "Do you see the picture? Picture of just clearly Derek Lewis. Like, no one looks like Derek Lewis more than Derek Lewis." And he just goes, "Yeah, as you can see, I've got hair. That guy's bald. Can't be me." It's fucking brilliant. Screw it, man. Who cares? On to the next one. Nicholas Dolby. I'm proud of us for this one. We fucking said it. We said that this is not a gimme fight. That Nicholas Dolby was 5-1-1 in his last 7 fights since coming back into the UFC. Is a bit of a fucking monster. Doesn't give up.
Yep.
Isn't going to be persisted away. And will fucking win if you don't mind your P's and Q's. And
dumbest thing I heard all night is as he's entering the octagon and they say he's the more technical guy here, he can't let it descend into a brawl. And I'm just thinking, this is the guy that had a no contest because it was no longer safe to fight in the cage because the amount of blood that both guys had spilled, they couldn't stay on their fucking feet. This guy is all heart. He is a born brawler. He was never that fast. He's a brawler. Let him brawl.
Also, look at the difference. Look what happened in round 1 when he was trying to be more technical and set things up. He got consistently hit and outstruck from distance. He got taken down. He almost got submitted a couple of times. He was put in some bad fucking spots.
Yep.
That fight was not going his way. The moment in that second round he makes that decision of, I'm going to just be in your face. I'm going to be the one. If we're grappling, it's me pushing you back, not me having to defend you. I'm going to see how you like being pushed around.
Yeah.
And if we get in that clinch and I get you up against the cage, I am hitting you with knees. Knees to the body, knees to the head. I'm going to elbow you. I'm just going to make you have to eat some shit that at 15-0, with all the skills and all the ability in so many different facets, you probably haven't had someone do to you before.
Yeah, well, he'd had that sort of situation earlier in the fight or earlier in the round where he had tried to kind of reverse the position by kind of going for his own sort of double leg threat. And I think he realised that even though he wasn't going to be able to pull that off, that maybe Bonfim was getting a little tired. So when he got those underhooks and he was able to kind of drive forward and force it back to the feet. Actually, maybe it was the first round that he had that taste of it. Because the second round, that was quite early on, to be honest. And like you say, he clinches him up, puts him up against the fence, and it was just the elbows, the knees to the heads. Bonfim did a pretty good job of toughing it out, considering how many clean fucking shots he ate with both the knees and the elbows.
He tried to hang in there, man. He tried to hang in there. But listen, Dolby did. When you're facing a guy that's faster than you, more technical than you, younger than you, with all the confidence in the world, you've got to be able to find ways to bridge that gap and find a space or an avenue where you can have success. And he was able to do it. He took away all of the range. He took away all of the space. And He just said, deal with it. Go
Yeah.
punch for punch with me. Let's see who's going to tough it out.
Surviving the onslaught isn't a game plan, but you do see some athletes occasionally that will make that work. And, fucking God bless Nicholas Dolby. That was fucking amazing.
So this is why you can't pay too much attention. Like, it's always nice to see these young prospects coming up. And when you've got an undefeated guy, it's exciting, it's fun.
Yep.
You're looking out for him. He dominates a couple of fights.
And he looked great. It was a great performance from Bonfim.
But you've got to see what happens as they pass these incremental tests upwards. You know, and Nicholas Dolby's not the hardest test you will face on your way up the ranks at welterweight. But what he is that guy that isn't going to go away from pressure. You aren't going to wilt him. You aren't going to have him give up on himself. He's not going to beat himself. And he's probably going to take everything you're going to throw at him and keep coming forward. So you've got to be able to deal with that for 15 minutes. And Bonfim simply didn't. And I think he's got every ability to learn from it. But this is a roadblock, and he stumbled. In the same way that we're still really... oh, God, Mini Masvidal. I'm blanking on his name.
Just for Martinez.
Adrian Yanez.
Yeah.
We're still really hyped on Adrian Yanez.
Yanez. I remember now.
Adrian Yanez. We're really still hyped on that guy, but he's faced a couple of roadblocks. And some deficiencies have come out that weren't coming out when he was fighting the Tony Kellys of this world.
Yep.
It happens. Bonfim will learn. It's his first loss. It's not his brother's first loss. He's got somebody close that can talk to him about how you deal with it and respond.
I mean, he was saying before the fight, he doesn't feel the pressure of being undefeated. It's because he works hard. They were saying on the broadcast, that's why he's undefeated. I'm pretty sure the guy is going to be fine. He's going to bounce back. I mean, watching him after the fight, I think he's going to take. I think he respected Dolby before and after. I think he takes it the right way. What's important to him now is, one, you need to appreciate more. Like, he obviously had that game plan to try and tire the guy out. It's like you need to be like a lot more clinical with that. And you need to really play to your skill set and really train hard at becoming so much slicker, so much faster, and so much more opportunistic with all of the finishes, be it on the feet or on the ground. And I think on the ground smarter for him because you can play both sides of that game plan very effectively on the mat rather than on the feet.
Also, you can't let yourself get pressed against the cage like that.
Well, you can't just let the position get reversed get that stand up. You can't let that guy do that. That was a little tired. I think he had assumed that he had worn Dolby down a little bit more than he really had, and had honestly, Dolby spent more energy during that first round, and I'm not really knocking Bonfim here, but Dolby clearly fucking came ready to play, so it didn't matter that he'd expended more energy because in the second round he had more energy to give in that key moment, and Bonfim that's when he lost the fight. Everything else was kind of academic after that. That was when he lost the fight.
I feel Dolby's got to get a ranked fighter now. You beat a 15-0 guy, that's got to get you some merit.
I think so. I mean, even if they don't book anything, and anyone in the top 15 has a fight fall out, I think you give Dolby a call. Because, why the fuck wouldn't you? The guy's in great shape. He's at that point in his career where it's
it's now or never.
Yeah. If I'm not going to have the fun fights now, then, and if I can win some of these fun fights, I could maybe get a little pay bump. I can really go out on a high here. You're going to want to be Johnny on the spot. I don't think he's going to turn these down. So
he needs a Bobby Green type opportunity. He needs a guy where it's you win this, and all of a sudden we can give you a really fun fight like a Dan Hooker co-main event, 5 rounds, which is just yes, please sign me up.
Let's say is Bilal Muhammad's booked to fight anyone?
Dude, he's 4th in the world, man.
That's not what I'm saying. he has a fighter fall out within a couple of weeks. You know, you're gonna call some people. Some people are gonna say no, but I think if Dolby's like top 3 on that list, and he probably should be now. I think he says yes. Like stuff like that can happen. Bisping got a fucking title shot.
Let's not put Dolby in the Bisping category.
We're not. But my point is that like, you have a list. It's like you have 3 fighters on it. You're lucky if one of them says yes.
I understand what you're saying.
I mean, it's not always like fucking Volkanovski, Makhachev 2, where you have like Poirier say yes, and you've got fucking Gamrot there, and then Volkanovski says yes. They're like, yeah, let's just be stupid.
Can we be honest though? Do you not think that what happened to Volkanovski is going to send a bit of a maybe not to fighters, but do you not think there's a lot of gyms with a lot of coaches Monday morning calling guys in and just saying,
not to the Nicholas Dolbys of the world. No,
this is why we don't take short notice fights. This is why if you are the champion of your weight class, you do not take short notice fights upper weight.
Yeah, and that's it's a cautionary tale. It's a good lesson to learn.
On lessons to learn, hype trains. Abus Magomedov came in. Yep. Everyone's acting like he's the next guy, and gets found out by Sean Strickland. He gives Strickland a hell of a first round, but it also kind of looked like Strickland was just letting him, he was keeping himself safe, not burning too much energy, saw what the guy was doing and just thought, I'm going to make this easy for myself in rounds 2 to 5. Ciao Braulio, wrestle fucks everybody, but in this fight I thought stand up was outpointing Magomedov.
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? Basically he outpoints Magomedov on the feet. Although, if I'm honest, the first 2 rounds were close. Like, if you had gone, it's 1 each, or it's 2 to Magomedov, I wouldn't have been surprised. I had it for Braulio, but you don't know. 3rd round was not in dispute. But yeah, man, the fact that, like, he did that on the feet, and it was crazy because that first round, they were both, like, very frenetic, moving around a lot, really just kind of, like, feinting with the hips. With the shoulders, like not really much with the hips, and it was just like both were like trying to play this like stubborn chess game in their own heads, where it's like I'm just gonna get the perfect like opening as I like set up my footwork, and both of them were just bouncing around a little too much. And I felt like, to be honest, Magomedov was one that settled into the fight the quicker. It's just that he refused to kind of let it go. And then Braulio, as soon as Magomedov stopped like jutting around a little bit and wanted to be more of a counter striker with only 1 shot, just kind of kept circling left, then stepping back like that right hook. Just made it very, very simple. And I just felt like Magomedov just didn't kick enough. He would only remember to kick after he'd like get caught with something. It was just...
Do you not think maybe because of the grappling of Chow, they'd said to him like try and avoid the kicks, try and set more stuff up with your hands?
I do think that they definitely didn't want to see that lead kick too much, which is why Braulio was able to step back with that right hook, because there was nothing coming from the left side. But in general, I think the kicks down the middle were very effective, and it was never going to be a case of like don't do it. I think it was always going to be an idea of like set it up. I didn't even see that. And I think the grappling threat does kind of like fuck with him in his mind. He's like, we have to stay here in this world. And once the first 2 rounds are close, he's probably in his own head like, what if they're against me? And I think, was it 3 rounds? I can't remember what the actual scorecard was, but
there might have been a 29-28 in there somewhere.
It's not going the way he wants it to go, and this is where he needs to win the fight. It's fucking with him.
Well, that's the thing. He throws a lot of single shots. It's a lot of full power shots. He's not really setting stuff up. He's not using the jab a lot. There's not a lot thrown in combination. And it does just give you the impression of like, I don't doubt that he can hit pretty hard. And I'm sure that along the way in his 25, what's his record now? 25-3?
Something, yeah.
It's some ridiculous number, but it's like, who has he been fighting? Because if you're finding a bunch of idiots that are just going to stand there in front of you and take your hardest shots without moving out the way, you're probably going to win. And he's a big guy. He's 6'3" or something like that, or
What's that Cody Garbrandt line when he fought Almeida? He's just been fighting fucking taxi drivers. Like,
well, maybe not taxi drivers, but if you're a big guy for the weight class and you hit hard and you've got some ability, I'm sure that you will beat quite easily a lot of lower ranked guys and not as a result get a huge amount of experience. And it just kind of feels like he's coming to the UFC. Listen, Strickland and Chao Bahario as your second and third UFC fights, that is not an easy fucking run.
No.
And I think he's probably been thrown in a little bit too deep in the water.
But to get beat by Bahalio essentially on the feet, not a good look.
Worrying sign.
And okay, not shitting on Chow at all.
He's got the worst tattoos.
He's obviously he has got the worst. I remember his debut. How much we were in disbelief around the tattoos. I thought Tapology had made a mistake, but that's a guy who he's a grappling threat. Magomedov was supposed to be able to kind of like dominate on the feet, and didn't. So that's what I mean when I say it's like a bad look. Like he shit the bed essentially in the way that he lost this fight.
What's even more worrying is that Chao Bahario's coaches and game plan for this fight, they'd obviously watched tape on him, and even in the game plan, they didn't feel concerned enough to be saying to him, put him on his ass straight away, which has been his game plan for a lot of fights. Yeah. They literally watched tape and came to some conclusion of, this is the fight where we want you to start trying some of your stand-up out. Well, that's concerning.
I honestly think that takedown attempt in the first was just remember to like threaten a level change at some point, and once he went for it, like he was like, oh maybe, and then no, and he's like, well, it kind of looked like kind of half-assed to me, and in retrospect I kind of felt like maybe that was a just feint the level change, and as soon as he did, he's kind of like stuck on that foot a little bit. He's like, fuck it, and kind of quickly gives up on it. He's like, I've already done what I was supposed to do. Like that was more than enough. From that point on, and the way he just kept circling, step back hook, like just it was too easy for him. Not easy. It was a good fight, a good performance from Bahalio anyway.
He gets
just
to win.
Yeah, it's wasn't forced to make as many adjustments as I would have assumed he would have needed from that first round. The weird, ironic thing was that when Magomedov settled down, it just kind of meant that Bahalio was able to start to find his rhythm. So, I think when it was an awkward fight, it was a close fight.
Big win for Chow. I'm not saying he should get this, but I'm just saying the last guy that beat Avis Magomedov got a title shot off it. So.
That's true.
Dontel Mays, Rodrigo Nascimento. This was a fight that happened. This was Magnolia. It happens. This is something that happens. There was a result. It was a fight. I would like to move on.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. No, it wasn't that bad. Yeah, I mean, like, if I'm honest, like, if you want to talk about it, you can do it very quickly, and I think you've said more than enough.
One thing I do want to talk about is best knockout of the night. A knockout that I had to watch on the replays about 5 or 6 times before I saw the way it actually landed.
Shouldn't be getting caught with that, to be honest.
Barely got caught with it, dude.
I know, but the thing
Elvis
is, he goes the wrong side on the first shot, and it's like, if he's not like overreaching on that side, there's no way he ever gets clipped with a loopy shot that wild.
Okay, I'm going to get this guy's name right, because I'm not good with this name. It's a complicated one. Yeah. Kainan Kruszewski. I'm going to go with Kainan. Kainan did everything he could to avoid it. He avoided the first shot. The left hook comes through. It barely touches him.
I know, it's the wrong way to move inside on that first fight. Should have come like on the outside, and then there's no way he can't just come underneath that wild ass shot. It's been overextended over to his right there. Just gets clipped on the side of the dome, like never really.
It's a knockout so good that a non-MMA fan watching it, even after a couple of replays, won't understand why it's a knockout. They'll think it's like staged or something like that. It's so perfect. It's not obviously the way he intended it to land, but just the end result.
Yeah.
If it works, it's gold.
And again, Elvis was kind of playing from behind a little bit. Looked like he might be a little outgunned technically, but this guy on the feet, sometimes he blasts forward. He's not gun shy. Keeps his eye on the prize. And as you said, definitely didn't land the way he wanted it to, but damned if it didn't. And ultimately, he's really more of a grappler. So, I mean, after that Kutatalaze fight, I'm just like, I'm always going to watch this guy fight. I'm always going to be hyped up for it.
And the thing is, he's already proven that he can knock a guy out at any point in the fight.
Yeah.
Dangerous, powerful, going for it. Couple of great wins. Really nice way to start the main card off. Now, you haven't watched all the prelims. Any of the prelims. We have a lot to talk about on the show. So, really, I'll just talk about a couple of talking points that I think are worth mentioning. Fat Kratinov versus Zaleski dos Santos. One of the best draws you'll see. Really, really fun fight. Back and forth. Highly recommend giving it a watch. Victor Petrino. Stunning left hook. Absolutely stunning left hook. I mean, flatlines Bakauskas. Absolutely flatlines him. No follow-up shots needed. Down and out. Bakauskas, I just don't think has got the durability for light heavyweight. It seems like he just suffers some really bad knockouts. Angela Hill. This was something I wanted to talk about. Gets it done against Denise Gomes in a fight I didn't think she was going to win. And just another example of how just when you think Angela Hill is plateauing, and she will never be a certain level of opponent, in my opinion, but you keep putting her up against these hot prospects without the experience, looking to make a name by beating Angela Hill, and she keeps beating them, man.
Overkill's fun as well. Just
really good win as well.
Big fan.
Didn't have the strength advantage. Denise Gomes clearly hit harder, but Angela Hill just constant pressure, throwing everything, knees, kicking the legs, grappling when she needed to. Really dominated the third round with her grappling, so nice to see that coming along. And survived a nasty armbar attempt at the end of the first round. Eduardo Mora, beast, 10-0, dismantled Montserrat Ruiz, not a fight. And Mark Diakese, Scarfold, did not get the Scarfold this time round. Mark Diakese, that man has gone from the most exciting prospect that can never win to the most boring fighter that is consistently putting wins together. I mean, to watch a great kicker go to a wrestle and lay and pray is quite an experience. But
no,
you know what?
Bone Crusher can mean many things.
He's getting his win bonus, man. That's what he's doing. And fair play to him.
You know what? ATT made him a winner.
There you go. That's last week's action. Before we talk about this week's action, big fight announcements. I actually planned to do this on the main card, but then we introduced them in a certain order, and my mind just kind of like kept that order going.
I forgot to plug that shit in.
UFC 297. Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis is your main event. How happy are you with this?
Yeah, I'm very happy with it. I mean, I don't really give a fuck if Hamzat's not getting the next shot. Who the fuck else were you going to give it to? Kind of makes sense. Wait, makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Great fight, entertaining styles, and I think Dricus is the clear. You can't beat and finish Robert Whittaker and then not get a title shot when you're undefeated in the UFC, and your previous wins with Till and Cannonier and Brad Tavares. Like, you've beaten some good people. Good people to get to where you are. UFC 298, we now have Volkanovski versus Topuria. This was going to be on 297, but they're giving Volk's brain an extra month to rest.
Not enough time.
You feel still it won't be enough?
Yeah, obviously not. You need much longer than that.
He's fighting a guy that hits like a fucking tank.
Yeah, it's poor timing and really bad opponent given that context. So don't like it.
finally, UFC 299, much teased, finally delivered. Cheeto versus O'Malley 2. O'Malley seeking revenge / the easiest possible title shot on paper he could have mustered.
Let's go
Cheetos
Banga, banga, banga.
seeking to shut a guy up he doesn't like and win a title, despite the fact that he's lost to like 2 people that are ranked above him who aren't getting title shots. So
Details, mate. Details.
none of it makes any sense. But you know what? It's a fucking fun fight. The build up to that's going to be brilliant. I feel like Cheeto's a perfect foil for O'Malley in that sense. And if you remember the first fight, there wasn't like some big beef. It was kind of just like, yeah, they kind of both understood this was a good fight for this point in their career.
O'Malley had his hair done in Ecuadorian colours.
But it wasn't, you know what I mean? A lot of the shit talk's been afterwards because of how that fight played out.
Yeah.
And here they are, kind of at the same point in their careers. But I'll say this, I think Cheeto, he needs to give O'Malley a big thank you, man, because he doesn't get this slot if Sterling wins that fight against O'Malley. Not a damn chance in hell.
No. But I could give a fuck. I'm excited to see it.
He's fighting the one guy as well I think he's got the best chance of beating.
What, Cheeto or O'Malley?
O'Malley.
Okay.
Cheeto's got the best chance. They both of them. Because look at it this way. We know that somebody like Sandhagen is a problem because he can incorporate the wrestling. And also that was an off night for Cheeto, but I think Sandhagen, you've got to give him credit for making it an off night. You got to feel like the wrestling of Marab is just going to be too suffocating for him. That would be a nightmare fight. I feel Sterling. It's just that Sterling is going to get him down and keep him down.
Well, Sterling's not in the equation anymore. Well, wait, is he officially coming back or?
Sterling, yeah, he's trying to push for a rematch.
Oh,
he's
shit.
not moving up to. He only wanted to move up when he thought he could be the champ and become the champ. And he kind of humbly said, "If I can't defend, if I get knocked out by this guy, how can I expect to fight Volkanovski?" So for both of them, they've kind of been able to get this rematch that's going to have a huge amount of buzz and gives them both their easiest opportunity to accomplish the goal that they want. It's a good fight. Which leaves in question, we were kind of discussing this, who the fuck goes on UFC 300?
I didn't say this before we started recording, but jinxing things is not good.
So we're not going to talk about it yet.
We're not jinxing things. It is hard to look that far ahead, but we would say that like the divisions that were open were kind of like flyweight, lightweight, potentially middleweight,
potentially light heavyweight,
and then if you wanted to do the interim champ fighting someone one more time before the retirement fight, where neither of them are going to defend, between Jones and Miocic when they do it, do actually like book it. Potentially that. So
if there was an obvious contender, I'd say maybe, but I kind of feel like once Pavlovich fights
between now and then,
4 months. But look at who the candidates are. Aspinall and Pavlovich, between them, have beaten all of those guys. The only one that I feel the only two that might enter that equation, you'd say, would be a Almeida and a Curtis Blades if they can get it together. But I still don't see either of those guys doing anything that makes people go, we need to see the interim champ defend against this guy. Like, they've made that good of a case.
Yeah, and you're not going to see Garn turn around quick enough.
I think at middleweight, you've got some arguments. Lightweight, 100%. I think maybe flyweight, women's flyweight.
Thing is, though, for 300, I can see him. I think that we know they love the idea of heavyweight championship fights. This weekend just kind of proves that anyway. It's always been the case. I can see them reaching and forcing some shit for sure for 300. I mean, fuck, for 200 we had fucking Lesnar Hunt. Who needed to see that?
Yeah, but if you remember, 200 was a shit show, dude.
I do remember.
200 was an absolute shit show.
They
lost, like... Wasn't Connor going to be on it, and then he pulled out,
yeah, Connor
and then
Diaz
Jones
too was
fell...
going to be on it, which, to be honest, like, give a fuck. Yeah, Jones fucked up, so then you have Silver against DC, which, to be honest, like, wasn't the best fight, but the kind of hype for it was kind of cool. Misha Tate, Holly Holmes.
No, it was Misha Tate versus Amanda Nunes.
My bad, yeah. TJ Dillashaw against John Lineker. Was it Lozon against Miller? Or Lozon against Sanchez? Who the fuck did Lozon fight?
I think it was Miller.
And fucking Gegard Mousasi against Santos. That was a cool fight. Mousasi fucking laid it on him.
Looking at the other spots, I think you might see McGregor versus Chandler. If they make that the main event, I'm furious. But if they want to put that as like a feature fight, main card opener, something like that, I think that would be really cool. It's just about, can Conor McGregor's ego handle not being top billing?
Probably not.
And would they want to have to pay his salary with all the others? Like, could they back that they'll make enough money from this to justify? Whereas you can put Conor on a different.
Well, you know they were releasing his numbers as part of this antitrust lawsuit, so it's like aware. I think it was like 4.5 a fight.
It's not as much as you'd think, but it's still a lot of money.
Versus the gate potentially versus the pay-per-view buys, not so much.
There's a saturation level though. Like, if you think you can put Conor McGregor on a shit pay-per-view with him as the main event, and you're still probably hitting, like, bare minimum 1.2.
At $80 fucking buy, it's, you know.
They've got decisions to make, and we've got to see how some of these fights play out in December.
So I think, like, for 300, they're probably, like, you know... If
Jim Miller's the only guarantee.
Assuming McGregor... And McGregor isn't the biggest draw, but assuming McGregor was the biggest draw on there, they're still probably doing like 1.5. They're still looking like 120 million plus gate plus all the other shit. So
if it's the right card,
and like I was saying before we started recording, you know, if they like took the money, did Abu Dhabi, like fuck, they're making double, triple that. Like
maybe you get a Hamzat fighting for a belt on that card. Maybe you get, I mean, Jim Miller 100%. He has to be on that card. If they don't book him on that card, it's a fucking insult. Maybe not the main event.
Don't jinx it.
You don't jinx it. Let's move on to this weekend's action. Because we've got a big fucking card coming up. UFC 295, Mecca of boxing, Madison Square Garden, New York, New York. 2 awesome title fights. Even if one's an interim. Let's talk about...
It's the heir apparent, so it's fair.
Let's talk about this main event first. I'm going to describe this as a mythical fight. And I've thought about it more and more. Like, I'm actually angry that I wasn't more excited about this when this fight got announced. And maybe it's because of the inevitability of I knew it was going to happen. But now that it's here, it's like Yuri Prochazka is the Czech samurai. And Alex Pereira literally dresses himself in fucking like original like Brazilian Aborigine tribe war fucking paint. Both are excellent strikers in completely different ways. One of them super technical, the other guy just an absolute fucking crazy wild man. One of them with ungodly power, one of them with power, yes, but really ungodly durability to take just the nastiest clean fucking shots to the face and not die.
Yeah.
And then also go on to win the fight. And both of these guys finished like 90% of their opponents. Who wins?
It's going to be really interesting to see Pereira at 205 because he's going to be big enough for the division, but he's just not making that nasty cut anymore. Is he now going to be like a much more kind of like mobile, active pressure guy? Because with his power, like fucking hell, and it's just so hard to really kind of pick him over Yuri because he's got a really dangerous, well-rounded skill set. I think it really just depends on how much Glover was able to impart, how much he was able to kind of like how effective the lessons he learned and the advice he can give will be for their fight. Because stylistically, it's a different fight. It's just.
Do you want to hear something crazy?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So.
Wait, I changed it. No, I didn't change my mind. I'm ready for it.
Alex Pereira is slightly taller, 1m93 to 191. However, Yuri has the longer reach, 203 centimeters. The real question
to what?
To 200.
Oh fuck! I mean, for
Bad
how
match.
technical Pereira is, I don't think that's really gonna come into play.
There's so many different aspects of this. How are the leg kicks of Pereira going to come into play? How's the octagon control? Is the erratic nature of Prochazka going to create openings, or is it going to get him caught because he's doing something technically incorrect? Does Alex Pereira have the same kind of power? He didn't knock out Blachowicz, but Blachowicz is defensively very responsible.
Yeah.
Is he more durable? Is it going to be that kind of trade-off? And, you know, I mean, Yuri's finished like almost every single fight, I think. This guy's a born finisher. Born knockout artist. Been in trouble a bunch of times. And then you look at the final aspect, which is 31 versus 36. Is Pereira just going to be a little bit slower, maybe? Just not quite as quick as he was. Power's still there, of course, but just not quite as fast.
I mean, he's gonna be slower just like by virtue of putting on all that weight, but I think that kind of like works in his favor in terms of like aging as well. Obviously, being slow is like gonna suck, but at least he's training with that. He's had the opportunity to kind of get used to that. It's not like he's tailing off and thinking like, why can't I be where I was? He anticipates that it's going to be a little slower but a bit more powerful. But he also knows that the opponent coming back, pound for pound, is just going to be a little slower than they used to be. It's just physics. But I would say it's like Yuri's fast. It's just that like how aggressive and awkward his style does kind of make for kind of quick. You have to make very quick reads. Just not even in like, oh, what's he going to do next? It's just he can't really kind of come inside in the same way. You have to keep coming out and out because he can be wild and dangerous. And if you're just looking to counter that, if you're not all the way in, you're going to get caught with stupid shit. And if you are all the way in, you can't really work your game the way that I think Pereira would prefer to. So I think it's just, can he manage that distance to keep the footwork sharp and light? Probably. Even getting older and putting on the weight, I think probably. I'm not saying he's going to win, I'm just saying...
I'd say, listen, I actually think Yuri's going to win, but I feel like Alex Pereira is the way safer pick. If we were doing picks, which we're not.
We're not.
I just feel like Yuri's going to be caught with something. He gets... Every fight he's been in, he gets caught in the UFC. We've seen him get caught with something clean and fucking hard. I don't know if Alex Pereira's power is going to be quite the same at 205, but it's still going to be fucking powerful, man. And if you take that, no guard, chin in the air, in a bad position, I mean, like, we're going to see how good this guy's chin is. If Yuri can survive a couple of those wobbles and survive them the way he does in his other fights, I think he can win. But this is a good fight for Alex Pereira. You've got to feel his camp, his coaches are looking at this and just saying, we've got holes. We've got so many holes that we can take advantage of. Just don't be stupid. And it's basically going to be a kickboxing fight as well. For the most part. I don't see Yuri going for double legs. It's not his way.
It's not.
Co-main event. I need to hear something that's going to tell me why Tom Aspinall can win this fight on short notice against a guy that's literally flatlining all the scariest people in the weight class?
Because he is fast enough and long enough to be able to like pepper a few shots in. It's very feasible he can survive the first round, and if at any point Pavlovich does come forward a little too quick, Tom can just sort of take. Well, it's not gonna be easy to take him down, but I think Tom can get like a good open mat takedown, and then that could very well be the rest of the first round.
He needs it to be. Do you want to know what the reach difference is in this fight?
I'm gonna go about. Are you doing it in centimeters or inches?
Centimeters. That's what I've got on.
So it's got like 7-8 centimeters.
15.
15, Jesus. That's 7 and 8.
That's about.
It's a math joke, guys.
I get it. Well done.
Didn't like that.
What's that in inches? That's like 6 inches.
No. Oh wait, 15. Yeah. Close, I think.
That's a big difference, man. And listen, if this fight was Tom on a full camp, I'd feel really good about it. But Tom 2 weeks off the sofa. Maybe he's not been on the sofa, but I don't fucking know. He's not been in a training camp, training for a Russian that's going to charge at him.
Volkanovski's burnt you, hasn't he?
It scared me, dude.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't want to see these great fights happen without one guy being fully prepared. That's why I don't watch boxing anymore.
Well, I think it's doable.
Is it just survive the first round and the fight's yours?
No, but that is the largest piece of the puzzle, and I think it can be done on the feet.
Pavlovich doesn't give you a chance to be technical.
No. You have to kind of come forward a little bit and kind of like you got to hit him with some stuff and just kind of like keep him back, keep him thinking. And again, once you kind of got like a little bit of space there, much like Chow did, you just kind of threaten the level change. You're gonna give yourself a little bit more time. You're gonna give yourself a little bit more space. Once they're thinking about it while they're coming in, it's just that split second of hesitation. Just gives you a second to make a read. You know, kind of get a little further out, move laterally, even come inside and actually get the fucking the takedown. But it's possible. It's possible.
I'm rooting for Tom. I'm not confident. If it hits round 2, I'll be a lot more confident. Feature fight's a fun one. Mackenzie Dern taking on Jessica Andrade. Mackenzie Dern's doing this. Andrade is doing this right now.
Yep.
3 losses in a row, all by finish. Chin's looking a little not quite as good as it used to be. She obviously loves to fight. She's got her style, but is she just getting a little too old now? Is she not quite as durable? And does that matter in a fight like this with Mackenzie Dern?
Well, in principle, it does feel like a changing in the guard fight, but is Andrade compact and strong enough to reverse positions on the ground? Potentially, ultimately I feel like Mackenzie Big Mac has got this one as soon as she gets it to the ground, but it's interesting
sloppy
enough
on the feet though.
Oh, for fucking sure. Yeah.
That's the thing. I can see our openings potentially being there for Andrade. And it's a big fight for her because she's fading into irrelevancy. And fast.
Well, she's just fading into the end of her career. She'll always be like a fucking legend. Like, used to fight at 35, 115, 25. It's insane.
I think maybe that's been the issue as well. It's like the Blanchfield fight, taking that so short notice, and was it the Yan Janan fight she took before or after that one short notice, and then goes in short notice replacement against that monster of a wrestler, Tatiana Suarez. Maybe that's a factor as well. I like Big Mac for this fight. She needs to not strike though. She needs to get this fight to the ground and quickly as possible. Andrade is not the person that you fuck around with on the feet.
Very true.
Unless you're technical enough. Diego Lopez versus... Sorry, skipping a fight. Steamroller Frivola versus Benoit Saint-Denis. Great to see Matt Frivola getting an opportunity like this on the main card. Really fun fight. Sandini, apart from that Aleski dos Santos fight as his debut, has looked like an absolute killer. But Steamroller Frivola, some of the wins he's had recently, man, you look at it and you think, fuck. I mean, Drew Dober knocked him out. Ottoman Azaita knocked him out. Gennaro Zaldes knocked him out.
The thing is, I think Sandini's got it on the feet, but more importantly, he just has to take him down, and it's very much in his world. So, obviously, the fight starts on the feet. It's just, I don't think it really matters. I think Sandini takes this one early.
I'm thinking... I'm not ruling out Frivola on that one. He can grapple, he can wrestle. Isn't he training at Serra-Longa?
Ooh, no idea.
I think he's training at
great camp.
I think he's training at Serra-Longa, so he's going to be well prepared for...
I don't think it matters. I really rate Sandini.
I know you do. He's a fucking beast, man. I rate him as well. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that Frivola wins. I'm just saying don't rule him out.
Yeah, that's fair.
Grappler's delight in the main card opener. Diego Lopez taking on Pat Sabatini. I kind of like Diego Lopez for this one.
I can see that. It's a fun fight though.
He's what's he 1-1 now? I think. Yeah, submitted Gavin Tucker, and obviously had that absolute war with Evloev.
Yeah.
I think he's good enough to beat Pat Sabatini. Although I like Pat
Sabatini's looked great in spots, but to be honest, has not struggled with other grapplers, but just not looked super elite against all of them. I mean, there have been some performances that have been like absolutely fucking lights out, but even then, like, you know, more decisions than finishes. Really, it's kind of at a make or break point in his UFC career where you don't want to be defined as underwhelming. So this is a good one.
It's a fun main card.
Yeah, it's a really fun main card.
Had to go through some changes. I've dealt with them emotionally. We're all good.
I haven't.
A couple of fights to look out for though in the prelims as well. They are reasonably stacked, although the early prelims are lacking a little bit for the first three fights. But Mark Madsen taking on Jared Gordon. Definitely look out for that one. Master of the Universe. Dun, 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 dun. And Tabitha Ricci. Always good fun. Taking on Lupita Godinez. That should be a really good matchup as well. Fun card. We'll be watching it. We'll be back next week to break everything down. Discuss whatever madness has ensued. Hopefully, a second British champion. And we hope you guys enjoy the fights as well. Till then.
Probably do the Flash thing again as well.
Peace out. Take care of yourselves. Have a good week. Catch you on the flip side.